What was Mika Zibanejad thinking? Why were Wheeler and Cooley on the ice in overtime before Panarin and Lafreniere? And what in the world was Jacob Trouba doing?
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1078 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. So Rangers obviously now tied 2 games apiece with the Florida Panthers, heading back to Madison Square Garden for Game 5 tomorrow night. And, you know, on one hand, if you just take it at face value and you just look at what I said there, you'd think, okay, not too bad of a situation to be in. We knew these were 2 elite teams. It was going to be a battle. Never for a second did I think this would be a quick series for one team or the other. But when you look at how we got here just at Game 4, it does feel like a missed opportunity for the Rangers. And I realize, there were other games this series where maybe they were outplayed by a little bit and, winning 2 straight games in overtime, couldn't quite get the third one. So maybe we should just feel fortunate that the Rangers are in the situation that they're in. But regardless, I want to kick off today's episode by talking about just a brutal sequence in overtime, basically the entire overtime period. And for a stretch of play here that lasted only 1 minute and 12 seconds, I sure do have a lot to say about it. So let's go ahead, dive right into this. We're going to talk about some other things later, why Igor Shesterkin deserved better, and debate whether this was the worst game of the playoffs for the Rangers thus far, but also going to end on a positive or two heading into Game 5. Anyway, let's go ahead, once again, talk about this brutal sequence in the overtime period. You've got, to start the overtime, Mika, Kreider, Kakko, Miller, and Fox. And that's my first problem right there. Why does the Mika line have to start every single period and every overtime period? Can the Panarin line not get a chance every once in a while? Can we not go with this line or that line? I don't know. Maybe it's not that big of a deal, but it is kind of noticeable how it is always the Mika line that's out there to start overtime. At least they had the good sense to put Fox out there at the start of the overtime period. This overtime started decently enough. The Rangers had the puck in the Panther zone, and that was only about the 4th time all night that they actually did that. So that was encouraging. But unfortunately, Fox wasn't able to handle a pass. Puck came out. Fox dumped it back in. But the Panthers had possession after that. Puck is in the neutral zone a couple of seconds later. Cooley picks up the puck, avoids a stick check. Nice play by Cooley there. Gets around a defender, gets the blue line, backhand pass across the blue line in the Panther zone to Mika Zibanejad. Now, Mika has some options here. He's probably got about, I would say, like 4 different things he can do with the puck, and he picked the worst option of them all. So basically, he's got a defender coming toward him. He's got some space and some time, but there is a defender closing pretty quickly. I think initially he was looking for Cooley, because after Cooley passed to Mika, Cooley went to the front of the Panther net. That pass wasn't there, so good on Mika for not forcing something that wasn't there. As I mentioned, there was a defender in his face. There was also somebody all over Cooley, so that was probably out. But what Mika could have done is tried to take the puck to the net himself. Again, when he received this pass, there was a decent amount of space and time, and he is one-on-one with the defender. Maybe try to make a move and get around him somehow. That would have been an option. I think probably the best option here would have been the simplest option, and that would have been just dumping the puck around the boards, around the corner there, behind the net. Will Cooley's getting in there on the forecheck. Maybe he can go to work behind the Panther net, dig the puck out, and set something up. But he did not do that, and he instead tried to force a pass to Blake Wheeler. Wheeler was, I think he was just on the ice, and he's coming across, the top of the zone there inside the blue line. Mika tries to force a pass that clearly is not there. And the thing is, even if you complete this pass, it's not like Blake Wheeler's in great position here. He's got a defender all over him. He's not going to shoot from that area on the ice, I don't think. And even if he does, it's obviously not a high danger or even a medium danger scoring opportunity. So he tried to force that pass. Panthers tip it away. Puck goes into the neutral zone. Panthers eventually run it down, and you get Barkov picking it up, going to the net, and Wheeler has to, hook him and do what he has to do to try to keep him from getting to the net, and the penalty is awarded, and that, of course, ends up leading to the Panther goal. As far as, the penalty itself, I tweeted this out after the game. I was actually hoping that the ref would award the Panthers a penalty shot here, which it could have happened. It was close to being a penalty shot, because my thinking there, normally I wouldn't feel that way, but the Panther power play is buzzing right now. That's really a problem for the Rangers. They've really got their hands full trying to slow down that unit. And I'll take my chances with Igor, the way he played one-on-one with Barkov in a, shootout, a penalty shot. I'll take my chances there. He just has to make one save, and he probably would do it. I'll take my chances with that, rather than have to deal with this Panther power play unit for 2 minutes. And they didn't need the full 2 minutes, not even close to it. But yeah, Mika, I mean, I don't know what was going through his head here. I know that some people have pointed out, and this is fair to mention this, that Mika obviously got the hot start in the playoffs, has been nowhere near that player recently. And a lot of people suggesting that Mika really hasn't been the same ever since, I think it was game 5 against the Canes, when Rangers were on the power play and you've got Brent Burns cross-checking him in the back, breaking his stick on Mika Zibanejad's back. Do you think a penalty was called on that play? Well, absolutely not. But the bottom line, Mika Zibanejad hasn't been the same player since then. But even if that's the case, and even if we give Mika a little bit of a pass with that, indeed possibly being the case, this is a mental mistake. Again, all he had to do was put the puck around the boards behind the net. And it's a simple play. And does it lead to something big for the Rangers? I mean, I don't know, but at least you've got a chance and you can get in on a forecheck and try to make things happen. As it is, the mistake was made, and you've got Barkov off to the races. And the other thing that happened on this play that didn't get a lot of attention either, this was a really bad line change by the Rangers. Jacob Trouba had just come onto the ice, and I guess it must have been, Fox and Miller started the overtime, so those must have been the two players going off at this point. And I just don't know that they were really busting it to get off the ice the way that you need to there. And Jacob Trouba might have been a little bit late jumping over the boards. One way or another, that was not exactly a smooth line change for the Rangers. And based on where the puck was during the play, that was also just not the time for a line change. It wasn't, that deep into the overtime. I guess you're getting up to like a minute, so maybe you want to get off the ice there. But yeah, no, that just can't happen. It's something like this happens in the regular season where, there's a bad line change, or somebody's even a little bit of a mental mistake, and somebody's a little slow getting off the ice, and it leads to the goal. I'm not going to be happy about it. You're not going to be happy about it. But you know what? There's 82 games in the regular season. If this happens in like game 23 against the San Jose Sharks, okay, you know what? They're human. They make mistakes. They're not robots, right? This is the Stanley Cup playoffs. This is game 4 of the Eastern Conference Final in overtime against the Florida Panthers, a team that I think most of us thought was probably the Rangers' biggest threat to getting out of the Eastern Conference and making it to the Stanley Cup Final. You cannot be asleep at the wheel like this. You have to be awake. You have to be alert. You have to be on your P's and Q's. And as far as why Blake Wheeler was on the ice, I have no idea. Blake Wheeler and Will Cooley both. And I'm not bashing either player. I like both guys. They obviously have a hand in some of the Rangers' success this season. Obviously, Wheeler just got back. But not only did the Panarin line not start the overtime, but how in the world, during a live play, do you go to Blake Wheeler and Will Cooley before you go to Artemi Panarin and Alexis Lafreniere? Peter Laviolette was asked about that. After the game, he didn't really give much of an answer, just something about wanting to use the whole bench, and okay, fine. I can't make any sense of that. Alexis Lafreniere right now looks like he's about to single-handedly take over this series. We saw him score a goal in this game. We saw him fire another shot off of the bar. It's kind of the corner of the net there where the crossbar and the post meet. We saw him get 2 goals in the last game. Alexis Lafreniere is on fire right now. And Artemi Panarin, look, he's been scuffling a little bit, but a couple of nice passes early in this game. He did have, I think it was a primary assist on the early Ranger goal. And it's Artemi Panarin. I don't even care if he is struggling. He's got to get on the ice before Will Cooley and Blake Wheeler. I think that pretty much goes without saying. So I don't understand that. Blake Wheeler, after this game, put the blame on himself. I'm not putting the blame on Blake Wheeler. He received a pass in a really tough spot. And the bottom line, once it was tipped into the neutral zone, he's not going to catch Barkov. He's probably not going to catch anybody. It is what it is. He's older and he's coming off of an injury and he's just not very fast. I thought Wheeler before this had, a decent game for somebody that hasn't played. And as long as he did, it's great that he's going to stand up and be accountable. But yeah, to me, this one is not on Blake Wheeler at all. And then the actual, I said I had a lot to talk about here. Keep in mind, we're talking about just about a minute and 20 or whatever it was, a minute 12 of play here. The overtime goal that was scored by the Panthers. You got to give some credit here because there was some brilliant passing by the Panthers, just a textbook tic-tac-toe goal. That's exactly how you draw it up. And the Panthers won the faceoff on the power play, and the Rangers never got it back. I don't know what Jacob Trouba was thinking on this play. And this is not a case of hindsight. As soon as I saw him do what he did during the live play, I'm thinking, where is he going? Because, the Panthers won the faceoff. They're controlling the puck, but they're passing around the perimeter first couple seconds of the power play. And the Rangers have, pretty solid structure. They look to be in position. And all of a sudden, Trouba's in front of the net, and he just makes a beeline for Tkachuk, who is along the boards, nowhere near the net, no possible chance he's in position to shoot. And even if he was in position to shoot, I don't think he's going to shoot from that spot. And if he does, Igor's not going to let a shot like that from that area get by him. That is for sure. So Trouba, for some reason, just goes dashing over to Tkachuk, and that pretty much set the Panthers up. You get a pass back to Montour to Barkov along the goal line, Barkov in front to Reinhart. Reinhart takes the shot and scores. Looked like it deflected off of Lindgren a little bit. Lindgren went down to block the shot, and he's doing what he thinks he has to do to try to keep the puck from going in. Might have just glanced off Lindgren, hit the crossbar, goes into the net, and the Panthers win. And it's just unfortunate because Igor Shesterkin was phenomenal in this game. He deserved a lot better, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, Trouba, he was out there for every goal that the Panthers scored in this game. The second one was kind of just ridiculous puck luck, so I'm not going to worry about that one. But he was out there, obviously, for this overtime winner for the Panthers, and he was out there for their first goal, too. Him and K'Andre Miller, I just don't think did enough on this play. Rangers are up 1-0 at this point in the game, and the Panthers end up tying it. The Panthers' power play had just ended. Bennett takes a shot on the rush. The puck gets behind Igor, and it kind of rolls behind the net a little bit, off to the side there. And the Panthers are there, and they're fighting for it. And they are able to, just blue-collar play, get the puck into the net just over the goal line. And on that play, I just don't think that Trouba or Miller, or for that matter, Wenberg or Mika Zibanejad did nearly enough to keep this from going in. This is basically a 2-on-5 struggle. It's Bennett and it's Tarasenko for the Panthers up against Igor, who's doing everything he can. Trouba, Miller, Wenberg, and Mika. You're outnumbering them 5-2 here. This puck cannot go in the net. You got to find a way to keep it out. You got to body somebody, knock somebody around, knock somebody down to the ice. Even if you have to take a penalty, it's better than what happened. And, you watch this play and, again, you got to give some credit to the Panthers here. They obviously worked hard for this, and credit where it's due. But you watch Mika and you watch Wenberg on this play, and they're basically spectators. They're just standing there watching this happen. I understand they don't want to bum rush the puck and accidentally knock it into their own net, but you got to do something. They were just watching this thing unfold. And again, Miller and Trouba, I don't think they did enough to cause enough resistance here and defend that net like their lives depend on it. And that's what it takes in the Stanley Cup playoffs if you want to win these games and win these series. And, the Panthers wanted the puck more in a crucial spot there, and you saw what happened. They end up scoring. So we're going to talk in just a second about Igor Shesterkin and everything he did in this game and why he deserves better. And anybody that watched this game, you know very well that he deserves better. We will get to all that stuff in just a second. All right, we just want to go ahead and let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. It is winner take all time in the NBA and the NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $140 in bonus bets, $150, in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and much, much more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's number one sports book. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is very much appreciated that all of you are watching this. And obviously for the everydayers, we're having a new episode tomorrow. We are going to talk about some huge lineup decisions that the Rangers have to make for Game 5 as far as, we're going to take it beyond just, who's in the lineup and who's out. We got some ideas here, or I've got some ideas that I'm going to throw at you guys. And you can let me know what you think. We're going to talk about ice time as well, because there were some ice times in that game that didn't make any sense either. Going to talk about special teams and the Rangers struggling there and possibly putting Lafreniere onto the power play unit, the top power play unit. And also going to talk about why this conference final could go down as one of the greatest playoff series ever played. It's certainly building its resume, and we'll get to that stuff in tomorrow's episode. But for right now, Igor Shesterkin, I mean, continues to be far and away the Rangers' best player on the ice, night in and night out. He's been fantastic. He stops 37 of 40 shots in this game. The amount of times where somebody went in against Igor Shesterkin just uncontested was absolutely inexcusable. I mentioned the sloppy line changes not too long ago. There was an instance in this game where the same thing happened. You know, the Rangers are going off for a change, and you've got two Panthers on the right side of the ice going in, moving from left to right on the screen, going into, challenge Igor Shesterkin. It was Evan Rodriguez going to the net. He made a move on the doorstep. Igor stayed with him all the way and made the save. There was also another instance where I think it was Barkov was left just wide open in the middle of the ice. The puck was in the Rangers zone, and Rangers just not getting back in time and just not getting in position, and certain guys taking themselves out of the play. And the next thing you know, there's a pass to center of the ice, and Igor is one-on-one with the shooter. And again, I think it was Barkov. I mean, there were so many instances like this, it's hard to keep it straight. But yeah, Igor made the save there as well. Too many odd man rushes allowed by the Rangers. Rangers did everything in this game except for roll the red carpet out for the Panthers to get to the front of their net. They were getting to the front of the net on rushes. There were a ton of scrambles in front of the Ranger net where, I mean, I guess the Rangers did okay getting it out of there, but I feel like they can defend better in those situations as well. You got to body somebody and at least knock somebody off balance. Obviously now it's different from how it was years ago. You used to be able to basically like mug anybody you wanted that was in, around your goalie in the crease in that area there. You can't really do that now, but you got to be able to, play physical and at least knock somebody off balance, do something, tie up the stick, do something, do whatever it takes to keep the puck out of the net. And I just don't think the Rangers really stuck their nose in there the way that they can, the way that they're capable of when it comes to defending the front of their net. And then the third period, I mean, it was the same deal in game 4 as it was in game 3. Obviously, game 3, the Panthers are swarming. They've scored 2 goals in the third period to tie the game at 4-4. And we're getting into the final few minutes of game 3. And I'm thinking, just get this game to overtime, regroup. Maybe they can win it in the extra period. And that's what happened in game 3. But in this one, it was the same deal. The Rangers are just scrambling around in their own zone. They say sometimes, the ice was tilted, right? The ice was straight up vertical in Florida's favor. I mean, I don't remember the Rangers in the final 7 or 8 minutes getting really any chances in the offensive zone. They were basically just trying to survive. And as I mentioned, in game 3, I was hoping it would get to overtime by the time there were about, 4 minutes left, 3 minutes left, whatever it was. In this game, I started thinking that almost immediately after really the Lafreniere goal, because Lafreniere scored to tie it, and then the Rangers went about 12 minutes or so without getting another shot on goal in that time. So as soon as Lafreniere tied it, the Rangers, were completely under fire again. And I don't know, man, Igor Shesterkin just deserved more support. And he's been so cool under fire this entire playoff series. He just makes save after save and doesn't really say a whole lot. You did see him after this game get a little bit fired up. I don't know if anybody saw the video that was going around, but he basically yelled at the referee because he felt that he was getting, kind of run at times in this game. There was one instance where it looked like his stick was maybe slashed out of his hand. He was looking for a penalty there. And obviously, anytime he covers the puck and he's down on the ice, the Panthers are always, whacking away at it. And, nothing called in any of those instances. After the game, Igor said to the ref, this is an exact quote, except I'm going to censor it. He said, "Hey, bleep, bleep, do your bleeping job." And I'll let you guys go ahead and fill in the blanks there because I do like my job here at Locked On. But yeah, I mean, obviously you were not happy about that. Probably just frustrated in general because, again, he's under constant fire and is having to carry the team on his back pretty much every game here. And I will say at this point, I'm of the belief that Igor Shesterkin is probably going to have to steal at least one more game in this series. I think game 3 was an absolute steal by Igor Shesterkin. They don't win that game without him doing what he did. There's other games in the playoff series or in the playoff run here for the Rangers where obviously Igor's been very good, but I don't know that there were that many games that he straight up stole where it's man, the Rangers got outplayed a lot, but Igor Shesterkin saved the day. He's been awesome, but I think in general, the Rangers have been very good too. You got to remember, even after this loss, Rangers are 10-4 thus far in the playoffs. So they have obviously been doing some things right. And there's games where, everybody's firing on all cylinders and, things are going well, but that, hasn't really been the case lately, especially when it comes to the star players. But Igor has more than held his own and held up his end of the deal here. And I'm just at the point now where you look how much the Rangers star players are scuffling. You've got Panarin, Mika, and Kreider, the 3 guys that we mentioned coming into this game. None of them are playing as well as they can. I mean, I know Panarin, he looked pretty good in the first period. Rangers in general looked good in the first period in this game. And Panarin did end up with a primary, a nice pass, to set up a goal. But all three of these guys are capable of doing a lot more than they have. And if that's going to continue to be the case, then the Rangers are going to struggle to win this series. But the ultimate X factor in the playoffs is always goaltending. And Igor Shesterkin, I mean, this could be his crowning achievement based on the way this has been going the last couple of games and what still lies ahead here. There's 3 games left. I think we're going 7. I've said it all along. I'm still going Rangers in 7. But I do think that for that to happen, Igor Shesterkin, you might have to have this guy steal one more game. And if he does that, you can start building a statue outside Madison Square Garden for Igor Shesterkin. But we're going to keep everything rolling in just a second, going to shift our attention to why this was very likely the worst game thus far of the playoffs for the New York Rangers. And, just talk about the Stars, essentially not really getting the job done. So we will get to that, like I said, in just a second. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here. So, I'm on Twitter, and I do want to respond to a few more than I have because Twitter is very active right now. Anytime the Rangers are playing, it's like somebody kicked a beehive with all the things that are being said on Twitter. Ranger fans are buzzing on social media, but I did see a comment. I said something after the game. I don't even remember what it was, but somebody responded to me and said that the last 2 games were embarrassing, and the Rangers are lucky to be tied 2-2. To me, Game 4 by far is the worst performance of the Rangers in this series. I know some people look at Game 1, didn't hate their game in Game 1. I thought they did get outplayed, but I thought, it was really just a case in Game 1 of the Rangers having a tough time generating offense. And there's going to be nights where that happens in the Stanley Cup playoffs, especially against, a very good defensive team such as the Panthers. And of course, Sergei Bobrovsky was very good in that game as well. That's probably the best game that he played the entire series. So Game 1 didn't really bother me like it did a lot of other Ranger fans. And I thought the Rangers could come back. And of course they did in the next 2 games. Game 3, a lot of people looked at that and said the Rangers got outplayed. Yeah, maybe a little bit, but Igor did his thing. And the one thing that I'll say about the Rangers defense in Game 3, I don't really feel, even though they got outplayed, I don't really feel that they made a ton of mistakes in that game. That was more the case in the third period. Look, it's never ideal to give up a 2-goal lead in the third period when you're trying to close out a really important playoff game. That's obvious. But to me, that was the Panthers being the Panthers. I mean, they're a great team, and there's going to be some pushback at one time or another, and they were able to rally, and credit to the Rangers for taking their best punch and responding in the overtime period. But in Game 3, and you could throw Game 1 into this as well, I didn't really notice, and you guys can weigh in on this, I didn't notice a lot of really bad turnovers, a lot of mistakes by the Rangers, or anything along those lines. In this game, there were mistakes left and right. The slow line changes, the turnovers. There were so many instances in this game, too, where the Rangers were about to clear the zone. Looks like a fairly easy clear of the zone, and they just don't get the puck out. And the Panthers get control of it again. And oh my God, here we go. That happened so many times in the third period when this game was tied. I mean, at a certain point, once it was down to 2 or 3 minutes left, and the Rangers are about to clear their zone on one instance, and they didn't, and the Panthers took it away, I kind of just threw my hands up, and it's like, well, how many chances are you going to give these guys? Sooner or later, they're going to put one in the net. And fortunately, for the time being, thanks in large part to Igor Shesterkin, that did not happen. And the game did get to overtime where, it's anybody's game. And obviously the Rangers have had success there, but it just wasn't their night. And, again, just too many mental lapses, too many bad turnovers, too many failures to clear the zone on the part of the New York Rangers. I do want to throw out one other thing here as it pertains to the referees and puck luck. Look, there were some instances in this game where the Rangers didn't have puck luck. There was, I forgot to talk about this actually, that the second goal that the Panthers scored, it was basically a game of Plinko from the Price is Right. The puck was bouncing all over the place, off Igor, off the Panther, off Ryan Lindgren's helmet, and then batted into the net. Can't put that on anybody. And, I guess maybe a little bit of puck luck on the other Panther goal, the one that they barely got over the goal line because it only got over by an inch or two. But I don't know. I mean, can you really blame puck luck in a game like this when the Rangers made as many mistakes as they did? And I see a lot of people going after the refs as well. And I don't think the refs had a very good game. There was that play at the end of regulation where Mika was pulled down in the neutral zone. And then Kakko, I don't really think that was a trip. It looked to me like he stepped on Ekblad's skate and went down. Ekblad then, though, he could have been called for something after that because he basically gave Kakko a shot to the back of the head, which is ridiculous. Blake Wheeler took a knee-on-knee contact early in the game and nothing called there. But again, all these things, I'd be more upset about it and probably talk about it more, if the Rangers had actually played well in this game, and you can look at it and say, man, we deserve that one, and the refs took it away from us. No, we didn't deserve anything in this game. The only reason the Rangers were in this game was because Igor Shesterkin stood on his head the entire night. Strong first period, not so good second period, and even worse third period, and a catastrophe of an overtime period, even though it only lasted 1 minute and 12 seconds. So that's kind of where things stand. The good news, though, we want to on some positives here. The Rangers have shown all season that they respond after bad losses. We saw it during the entire course of the regular season, and we've seen it multiple times in this playoff run. Namely, their response after the Game 5 loss to the Canes and being in a 2-goal hole in the third period and coming back to win that and eliminate the Canes in Game 6. Also in this series, Game 1 obviously didn't go their way and kind of a frustrating night. Couldn't get anything going offensively. Played very well in Game 2. Game 2 was an absolute battle, 50-50 all the way. Total dogfight between the two teams. Rangers persevered and found a way to get it done. And so we have seen examples of this. The Rangers bouncing back from tough losses and getting the job done in the next one. Well, it's gut check time now, because every game from here on is basically the most important game of the season. So we'll see what it's going to be. Another bit of good news here, and I got to give a shout out to George Kuhn on Twitter. This is what he said. Fox skating differently tonight. Notice from the get-go, better pivoting, more explosiveness, way different, but he is about a month out from the knee-on-knee, same timeline as the regular season injury, missing 10 games, maybe approaching healthy finally. And yeah, I noticed that too. Adam Fox looked a lot more mobile, and just the quickness was back and the explosiveness, and he looked great on the setup for Alexis Lafreniere on the game-tying goal. That goal was a thing of beauty. First of all, shout out to Erik Gustafsson, who, for my money, has outplayed both Jacob Trouba and Keandre Miller, at least in this series, if not the entire playoff run. But Gustafsson made a great play to keep the puck in the zone, got it over to Fox, and then Fox is kind of moving around, creating space, getting to the net. He ends up having to kind of like do a spin move and then a backhand pass to Lafreniere, and Lafreniere is able to tip it into the net. I joked not too long ago that when Fox is at his best, he can basically fall out of bed and get 2 assists. And lo and behold, he ends up with 2 assists in this game, the healthiest he's looked in a long time. So with the Stars struggling, Mika and Kreider and Panarin not really doing a whole lot offensively, somebody like Adam Fox stepping up big and being back to full health and setting up guys, putting it on a tee for some of his teammates, that's going to go a long way for the Rangers going forward. And that was awesome to see. And, shout out once again to George for noticing that as well. One more thing that I'll mention here before we call it. There was an incident where Kreider and Tkachuk were, mixing it up during a play stoppage, and Kreider somehow ended up with Tkachuk's mouthpiece because, his mouthpiece is hanging out of his mouth the entire game. I don't even know why he uses a mouthpiece, but somehow Kreider ends up with the mouthpiece and throws it possibly into the stands. And apparently Tkachuk revealed after the game, he said that that was the best play that Kreider made all night. And he might not be wrong about that, but you know what? Somebody slapped that quote on Chris Kreider's locker room back in Madison Square Garden, because the Rangers need more from Kreider. That's the bottom line. Legendary performance in Game 6 against the Canes, but if you really want to make that performance count and really mean something and really go down, not just in Ranger history, but in hockey history, then you have to find a way to win this series and punch your ticket to the Stanley Cup final. And obviously, Kreider's been quiet, along with a lot of the Ranger star players, but that's got to light a fire under you, right? it has to. You got this guy talking smack and saying that's the best play that he made all night. So we know Kreider can have a 180. If he's going well, he can have a bad game. If he's going bad, he can have an awesome game out of nowhere. Let's see him pull that off, and let's see the Ranger star players pull that off right along with him in Game 5. But we will be back here with another episode before Game 5 tomorrow. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning into the Locked On New York Ranger podcast, your team every day. If you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that is @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys, and I will see you next time.